so much for joining me on the telecast. Meanwhile, we have more news coming in now in terms of Manipur. A young Kuki-Zo woman has endured abduction and unspeakable sexual brutality during the earliest and most volatile days of Manipur's ethnic violence in May 2023 has succumbed to her injuries. This comes after nearly 3 years later, bringing a tragic end to a prolonged battle for life and justice. The young woman, who had been undergoing extended medical treatment at Apollo Hospital, Guwahati, breathed her last on January 10, 2026 due to complications arising from the grave injuries inflicted upon her during the violence. She was barely 18 years old when she was assaulted. At the time of her death, she was around 20. She was a resident of Newsx colony, Imphal, and according to survivor testimony and documentation compiled by community organizations, the incident occurred on May 15, 2023 when she stepped out to an ATM booth in Newsx to withdraw money. She was allegedly intercepted by members of the Mira Paibis Meiti women's group, who reportedly assaulted her and questioned her identity. Let's in fact listen in to what President Kuki Women Union Southern Hills and COTU spokesperson has said on this.
We are gathered here this evening to pay our homage to our beloved sister, Miss Ningtingling Haukip, who bore the silent scar of hatred and physical atrocities, a reflection of our political discourse which has teetered towards fascism with abject failure of judicial system in the country. The case of Miss Ningtingling Haukip is a reflection of our civility in the valley and how women and children are treated.
जो हमारा बच्चे 17 years का था, नन्ही सी बच्चे के साथ में आरामबाई टिंगोल ने बलात्कार की थी, उसको मारपीट भी किया था और आज हमारा बच्चे निंगटिंग हाउकिप को हमारा साथ नहीं रहे। FIR भी किया था, तब भी अभी तक एक्शन मिला ही नहीं है। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हमेशा बोलते हैं भारत के बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ, कहाँ है बेटी पढ़ाओ बेटी बचाओ? वो भारत के बेटी नहीं है क्या? अभी भी सरकार सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट उसको इंसाफ नहीं दिला पाया। क्यों ऐसे करते हैं? हमारा सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट भी अनदेखा क्यों करता है? देखना जरूरी है ना। सिर्फ एक साइड को देख के उनका कुछ भी नहीं होने से भी इंसाफ दिलाता है।
All right, so that was the development that was taking place in terms of Manipur. When we talk about this incident, it's a very tragic incident that has taken place. A young Kuki-Zo woman who endured abduction and unspeakable sexual brutality and during the earliest and most volatile days of Manipur's ethnic violence, which was in May 2023, has succumbed to her injuries. And this comes nearly 3 years later, bringing a tragic end to a prolonged battle for life and justice. And the young woman, who had been undergoing extended medical treatment at Apollo Hospital, Guwahati, breathed her last on January 10th, 2026. Now, I'll be going over to the big wall over there to break this case down for you. Let's take a look at what exactly happened in this case in detail that we're talking about, which happened in Manipur, and where a young Kuki-Zo woman was abducted and she succumbed to her injuries and very tragic loss of her life. First of all, what exactly happened? A young Kuki-Zo woman was abducted from an ATM in Imphal during Manipur's ethnic violence in May 2023. So this was an incident that was reported in May 2023. During we have seen the ethnic violence in Manipur that was reported. So she was abducted from an ATM. So that was what transpired in May 2023, where a young Kuki-Zo woman was abducted. And when we talk about, she was blindfolded, tied up and taken to multiple locations where she faced severe sexual and physical assault as well. So this incident was reported in multiple locations where she was blindfolded, tied up and taken to several locations. and the 18-year-old, that's her age of the survivor, was left in critical condition, but miraculously she escaped and was rescued by an auto rickshaw driver as well. So this was the incident that unfolded where she was in critical condition, but miraculously she escaped, and then she was helped by the auto rickshaw driver. She suffered extensive uterine damage, recurrent infections as well, and deep psychological trauma from the brutal attack, which is obviously after this incident, those are the things that she went through. An initial treatment occurred in Manipur before she was shifted to Guwahati for advanced medical care over years. So obviously we've seen this incident happen in May 2023, and she went through several treatments despite ongoing hospitalizations and battles with complications. No arrests were made in her case for nearly 3 years. So 2023, it's 2026 now. So no arrests were made despite all of the brutal things that she went through during May 2023, where she was taken to several locations where she was sexually harassed, and she was taken to several multiple locations where she was blindfolded and tied up. And community groups documented her testimony and filed an FIR under rape, kidnapping and atrocities law. So these are the documentation that was done in terms of the testimony as well. And the survivor succumbed to her injuries on January 10, 2026 at a private hospital in Guwahati. So she battled for her life for at least 3 years, but on Jan 10 she lost her life, and obviously no arrests were made in all these 3 years that she was battling for her life. When we have seen that in May 2023 this incident took place, she was taken from Imphal, then she was taken to Guwahati for further treatment, but still she continued to deal with several complications, and even after the hospitalization it didn't happen. So she succumbed to her injuries on January 10, 2026 at a private hospital in Guwahati. So in terms of this case, obviously it's appalling, it's appalling to say the least. It's shocking, and the fact that 3 years have passed by and still there have been no arrests that have been made, and still there are protests that are taking place in terms of this. On January 10 she lost her life, and for 3 years there were no protests, there were no arrests that were made despite these protests that were taking place, despite the fact that this incident was taking place in May 2023. It's 2026 now. Now joining me on the telecast is Taira Hassan, women's rights activist. Taira, obviously when we talk about an incident like this, it's shocking to say the least. It's an understatement. The fact that this woman went through something like this in May 2023, and even for 3 years there was no justice at all, and the atrocity that she went through, yet we are seeing there have been no actions that have been taken. What exactly is your take on this, especially when we are talking about this is not the first time in this that women have been embroiled in all these violence?
Yes, and whenever the violence breaks, our children and the women, they are most vulnerable targets. And it is not about only this, only one woman. I'm talking today about this Manipur woman. But, this is a question whether our daughters and our women are safe or not. We have very strong laws. Why are they not implemented? Why the crime against the women is not on priority, not taken seriously? You know what happens? Sometimes the late FIR charge sheet is weak, and that makes the women, so hopeless in this case. And in this case, she was brutally sexually assaulted, and she was just facing lots of atrocities. And she was abducted also, 18-year-old woman. In spite of this, why justice was denied to her in her life? Why the action was not taken fast? How can you say that after the Nirbhaya we have a strong law in our hands, how these laws are going to act as a deterrence if they are not implemented on the ground. I mean, it's very sad and shocking also that she died without justice, getting justice. So now I think this is a failure of the state also, that she was denied justice. And I think the action must be taken that why no culprit has been arrested so far. When she was admitted in the hospital, she was brutally assaulted, sexually assaulted, she was abducted. Who were these people? Why they were not put behind the bar? Why so much delay? Why this case was not taken on the in the fast-track court? And the redressal of such cases should be through the fast-track court. Otherwise, what happens in 3 years has been passed. The witness will be hostile. Whoever witness will be there, they will be hostile, and these culprits will get away after committing such a heinous crime. So I'm saying why the crime against the women is not on priority. Thing is this: we cannot talk of these laws that they will act as a deterrent. How these laws will act as a deterrent when you are not implementing them properly? States should implement them properly on the ground.
All right, Tahira Hassan, thank you so much for joining me on the telecast due to the paucity of the time. But thank you for the input that you have shared. Obviously, it's a very tragic incident that took place, and she died without justice, and she awaited for that for at least 3 years. But for now, we'll slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere.